Hello everyone, welcome. In this session, we have interviews from expedition leaders or tour leaders. Uh, Pyle and I are also expedition leaders or tour leaders. So, who are these people? So, expedition leaders are like us. What we do is we travel with the group of guests throughout their itinerary. That means we meet them when they arrive to a big city, airport or wherever, and we explain everything and travel with them to different location, different forest or wherever, guiding them. And like this, there are many expedition leaders, and they themselves have knowledge about all wildlife and also about the region. However, when these expedition leaders or tour leaders, we call them, travel, they always use local guides because they think, even we think, local guides are very important because they are from that area and they have very good, some of them have very good knowledge about what's happening now in their region, and it's always good to use local communities. So now you are getting trained to become a guide. You might come across these expedition leaders or tour leaders who wanting to use local guide because you are expert of that area. So we have reached out to one of the best expedition leaders from different parts of the world who travel to many different countries and use guides locally available. So let's hear from them. So here are the questions we asked our expedition leaders. First one was, we asked them, what value does a local guide add to your trip when you travel? Second, we asked, what qualities would you look for in your local colleague when you are identifying them? And third, we asked them to share a very memorable incident with the local guide.
Hi there. My name is Annie Van Dinther, and I have been a naturalist since 1999. I guide for Natural Habitat Adventures, and I've been guiding in a variety of different countries. I have worked all over North America, in Alaska, which is where I live. I'm from Homer, Alaska. I've guided throughout Canada and many different places, as well as in Mexico, Galapagos, Antarctica, and a few places in South America. So quite a bit of variety there. As far as the value that having a guide adds to a trip, I would say the greatest value is, it's one thing to go to a place. It's wonderful to travel, even without a guide, right? There's so much value in that. But when you have a guide who can teach you about the place that you're visiting, then you learn about the area, you learn about the people in the area. And there's it's like going more than once almost. It's like you would have to go there so many times by yourself without a guide to get to know that place on that level, that the guide just brings you that depth of awareness that you would not get if you were there on your own. Hopefully intimate local knowledge is what the guide is going to bring you, and a connection to local people as well. What qualities do I most appreciate in a local guide? I most appreciate a guide that has balance between a conscientious knowledge and awareness of the place that they're guiding, so they can truly teach people about the area. And they're deeply knowledgeable. Like, they have taken care to learn about this place. They didn't just quickly read a guidebook. They are studying. You can tell that they've put it to their heart's goal and their life goal to learn this place. Plants, animals, all of it, right? And maybe one subject more than the other, but one of those subjects is you can tell it's their passion. And in addition to that, that is balanced with a genuine desire to relate to the people that they're teaching it to. That could be through humor. It could be through story. It could be through asking the people who and how they're doing. Any one of those qualities is fine, but it's that genuine desire to connect with the people that they're talking to. If all they have is knowledge, it doesn't matter. If all they have is the, ability to relate, but they don't have any of that knowledge, both of those leave sort of a hole. But if they have the two together, magic can happen. And then as far as a memory that I have, there are so many. I've been guiding since 99. So, like over 20 years, which in this field is a long time. And so for those of you who are just learning, I want to say, stick with this, because that is a long time. And, some people just get into it for a few years. That's okay. But if you're trying to make a career out of it, there's some things that you need to learn about that kind of work-life balance. My favorite memory is actually when I went on a trip here. I got to be a tourist in my own place, which is rare, right? I went on a trip with my daughter for her school. I didn't have to be the guide, which is often a position I get put into. A friend of mine, Conrad Field, who is pretty famous in the guiding world, was our guide with me and the other adults and a whole bunch of fourth graders. And he knows every single plant in the forest. And along with his knowledge of all of the plants, he has a story to tell. And it makes the people who are with him, or helps the people who are with him, learn those plants and remember the experience, which is phenomenal. So that was a really memorable experience for me, even though it was in, basically my own backyard. It was a forest that I know well. I knew many of the plants that he was talking about, but his depth of knowledge was deeper. And that was really exciting to learn about plants that I knew from a different perspective. So I hope this helps you. I'm really excited for your journey, and I can't wait to learn from all of you as naturalists when I get to come to your country. Good luck.
Hello there, my name is Conan Duminil. I've been guiding nature and wildlife trips since the year 2004. I work across various age groups, from young middle schoolers out on school trips to seniors out on a leisure holiday. My work has taken me across most of India, and I also guide in Nepal and Bhutan. The value a local guide brings to the table is immense. Now, there's nothing like having someone from that region show you around and lend that bit of authenticity to the trip. But as a trip leader, there are many things that you cannot know, be it the buzz in the city that you're sightseeing in, or the dynamics that happen in the nature reserve you're visiting. Now, these are things, as a local guide, you are in touch on a regular basis. And that's where you bridge the gap and plug in that information and bring the quality up for the entire trip. As a tour leader, the single most quality I look for in a local guide is their excitement and enthusiasm. Now, in this field, it's easy to lose that excitement after a while. Seeing the things we see and experiencing the things we do on a regular basis, there's only that many times you could sit and marvel at the Taj Mahal, or there's only that many times you could be awestruck by the sight of a tiger. But you, as a guide, when you bring that excitement every day to your work, not only does it uplift the whole group, but it also motivates your colleague to put in their best effort to have a great trip. By far, for me, the most memorable experience I've had as a tour leader working with my local guides has got to be snake tracking with the Urulas. Now, the Urulas are erstwhile hunter-gatherer tribe that live in Kanchipuram district of Tamil Nadu, and I used to work with them where we would spend days out with them in the fields and scrub jungles tracking smaller wildlife. Over generations, the Urulas have honed in their skills to track smaller animals, and being out with them is reading nature like a book. Now, while I cannot quote a singular incident because every single time I've been out with them has blown my mind, but tracking snakes with them is certainly an education in itself. The Urulas are so adept at picking up the tiniest of tracks, and these are tracks where, in your experience, you think you know something, but these are tracks that you walked over 100 times. And the Urulas can pick up the slightest track in mud, or a dropping of a snake near a burrow, or a shed skin near a pile of rubble. And then they follow these tracks down to find their quarry. Now, not only are these tracking skills the stuff of legend, but the way in which they handle their wildlife and show you things which you've not observed before, that can be an education in itself.
Well, hello everyone. My name is Justin Peter, and I am based in Canada. And I've been a naturalist guide for many years. I've been interested in wildlife and especially in birds for all of my life since I was 5 years old. And it was always my dream to travel around the world and to see different wildlife and to see it well, and to take photographs, and to also to share that experience with guests professionally. And so I've been leading tours mostly for Canadian guests for about 10 years, and I've been working professionally as a naturalist in Canada for about 15 years. And wherever we go, I mean, I've been to different places. I've been to, with guests, to different parts of Africa, South America, Antarctica, and different parts of Canada, including the high Arctic, where it's nice and cold usually. And also to India, which is one of my favorite locations. And I've been there several times, and a few times with guests. And I love India because it's so big and so diverse, and there's so much to see and to experience there. And with all of our tours, local guides have always played a very important role, because local guides, first of all, local guides have the knowledge of the specific locations and habits of the wildlife. But I think more importantly than that, local guides also provide a context for the wildlife. It's not just that we're going to see some bird, for example, or some mammal, but we understand where that bird or mammal fits into the local environment, and what makes a particular nature reserve, for example, a special place. So, and I think local guides also bring a cultural element, because we're in their home, and you are sharing your home with us. And so we like to learn about your place in the world and how you live. So I think local guides add tremendously. I think in terms of the qualities that we appreciate with local guides, obviously we appreciate their skill in finding wildlife and interpreting wildlife. I think there's a couple of other things that are important though. I would say one of them is the ability to listen to your guests and understand exactly what it is they're interested in. Oftentimes guests will come, over a certain amount of time to one location because it's known for a specific wildlife. For example, tigers. But not everyone is interested in tigers, or to spend 100% of their time looking for tigers. So it's important to be aware that different guests may like to see tigers, but perhaps they might be more interested in seeing the birds or other wildlife. So it's good to be prepared to try and understand in advance what the specific interests of the guests are, so that we can figure out how to create and to tailor an experience for those particular guests. I think another point that's very important is local guides really have to take ownership for the welfare of the wildlife and the wild spaces they are presenting and bringing guests to see. guests may assume that it's very easy to see a tiger, or it's very easy to see a certain kind of bird or reptile or whatever it might be. But sometimes it isn't easy, and there's good reasons, because sometimes we have to protect the habitat. If, for example, a bird is only seen at its nest, it's possible we would disturb the bird at its nest and cause it to abandon its nest if we brought people to see it to get a perfectly clear view of that bird. Sometimes we have to, in order to allow those birds their peace and their quiet, we have to view from a distance. So we may not get a perfect view of the bird, but at least we know that they're there. We might get a bit of a sort of a view through the branches, maybe not perfect view, but that's all right. It's important for a local guide, I think, to convey that to guests, that we are not going to see a perfect view of this bird or this tiger or whatever it is, because we have to allow them their space, because the welfare of the wildlife is more important than a perfectly clear view or a perfect photograph of a bird. So I respect that very highly in local guides, and I think that's important. In terms of memorable experiences I've had with a local guide, I think my most memorable was a visit with a local guide in Gujarat at the Little Run of Kutch, and our local guide brought us to the den of striped hyenas, and he led us by foot from our jeep, and instead of everyone going together to the den right away, he brought us one by one, and we walked in a line very quietly to the den, and we sat down on the ground near the den, and we waited and we waited and we waited, and eventually the sun went down and it was almost dark, and the hyenas appeared around the den, and I don't know if they could see us, but they could probably smell us, and they were looking around sort of in our direction, and we were sitting down at their eye level like this with them, and it was a thrilling experience, and I don't think it would have been possible if our local guide hadn't conveyed to us that it was important to be quiet and to follow his lead, because we didn't want to scare the hyenas. It wasn't just a case of us seeing the striped hyenas, it was also very important for us to respect them. So we saw them well, we respected their distance and their need for space, and we had a tremendous experience. And so I really respect our local guide who can do that, who can show us the wildlife, but not to disturb it, and make sure that the wildlife has a chance to keep living in those nature reserves peacefully.